Well, it's complicated. You see, this far out with the models, you can't really tell too much with this storm, but there are some things that we can tell you that are important. So make sure you stick around for the rest of the video to find out all of the kind of dissecting that we do with this storm so you can at least get a good baseline before we start, getting into the hype cycle with this storm, because then at least you have a base to come from and be like, hey, well, this guy said something else. So definitely worth watching. So let's go right into it. All right, this is the current satellite view of the Atlantic right here. And as you can see, we got a lot of storms out there. It's pretty crowded out there. You can see that we have a little post-tropical depression. This was Italia, and it's projected to move up to the north. There was some speculation that this could go into the East Coast, but again, obviously the models change, and now it's forecasted to be a minimal threat to the Nova Scotia, Canada region. Also, down here, we have a little tropical storm, not really expected to do much. We call those fish storms. We got another fish storm over here, so definitely a lot of pissed off fish out there, but other than that, not really too concerned about these storms. Now let's move down to this storm over here. This is our main focus. This is what we call a tropical wave, and it just exited off of the coast of Africa here, and over the next 7 days, it has a 70% chance, an overall high chance of forming. Over the next 2 days, a 20%, so not really looking at development here shortly, but over the next 7 days, as we're about to go over here shortly, the models are definitely agreeing that this thing could have a chance to form. Here's the high-def view of this tropical wave, and if you look at the white colors on this map, you can definitely tell that there is some swirl there, and the green and reds are indicating convection or storms brewing within that swirl. So, it's a little organized, but not quite organized yet to really be too concerned about it as of right now. Now we're going to go over the models. We're going to go quite far out here. We typically don't do that on this channel, but there is a little bit of agreement and some things that we can take out of these models and extrapolate it for you guys. So let's look at the GFS here. And as you can see, moving this forward, right at around Tuesday here, we have a little cluster of showers right in this region that we are paying attention to. That's going to eventually be our storm if it forms. The only reason we're only going out right now because we're about to compare this to the Euro. So let's go over to the Euro and then move this forward as well. And you can see the Euro also has a cluster of storms, maybe a little bit more organized at this moment going into Tuesday. And if we compare and contrast, I mean, there's definitely some agreement, at least in the initial track of this tropical wave. Not so much on the strength, but definitely some agreement on the track. Let's go over to the CMC model, move this forward. As you can see, this one also starts to form a storm kind of in the same area, maybe a little bit further south in the GFS and the Euro, but that's general agreement, especially when you're about, 3 to 4 days out. That's a decent amount of agreement between models, especially before the storm even forms there. Now let's go over to the icon model, move this forward to about Tuesday there. You can see that this really hasn't really formed into anything yet, but it's definitely, an more organized tropical wave. So if we come over to here, compare all these models together, you can see that most of them have something starting to organize, except for the GFS. GFS has been a little bit wishy-washy here, but they're all pretty much in the same area here. So let's move the GFS forward a little bit more until we get to the Caribbean here. So the GFS has this thing starting to form into a tropical storm there on Saturday around the Lesser Antilles. There, going over to the Euro model, pushing this forward. This is unfortunately the furthest we could push this model forward, and it has it at a 1008 millibar storm by Wednesday. The CMC goes out further here, so let's go see what it has to say. By Sunday, Saturday, it's kind of in the same region, maybe a little bit more north than the GFS. Yeah, it's a tad bit more north. I mean, but man, look at that agreement there in the track between these two models this far out. That's pretty rare to have that happen, so it's definitely something we're gonna have to watch. But again, both of these models are saying, a weak tropical storm at this point. The GFS was very bullish yesterday. There's a lot of people that posted videos, news stories about that, saying that we could potentially have a long track, strong hurricane, but that's just not the case right now. Models aren't saying that. Again, the models are going to go up and down in intensity, but as we get closer and closer to this event, this is the icon model here, and let's see where this thing ends up on Saturday. So here's Saturday, a little bit further to the east, but still generally has the storm in the same place as the GFS and the CMC model, icon being a little bit more to the north and east in both of those models, but still has a storm starting to form there. So what can I say right now in terms of these models, or what I think this storm can do? I'm definitely thinking that this thing has a chance of forming here. I'm definitely starting to agree with these models that this thing can push into the Caribbean, so we're definitely going to have to watch that, for the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, maybe Dominican Republic. But other than that, we really can't say too much about the impacts to the United States. As you can see, this thing could go into the Caribbean, turn up to the north. It could hit, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and then just fall apart, or it could just shift off to the north and not really be a problem to really anybody. So it's definitely something to watch, which we are going to be doing here. But in terms of a threat to the United States, if you live in the United States, don't be worried about this storm. If this thing starts to form and for some reason it becomes a hurricane somewhere around and near the Caribbean, then definitely we're going to start paying attention to the storm a little bit more. But as of right now, we're not going to really take this thing too seriously until it forms. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.